Dinner diplomacy. Melania Trump sits beside Putin at G20 banquet after her husband confronted him on hacking the election, which Russian leader flatly denied. After spending 2.5 hours speaking to President Donald Trump, Russian President Vladimir Putin had dinner seated beside the American leader's wife, Melania. The Trumps both met Putin for the first time on Friday, as the world's top leaders gathered in Hamburg, Germany at the G20. President Trump's conversation with Putin signified the first time the Republican brought up Russia's hacking of the 2016 presidential election, which Putin promptly denied. With the day's business out of the way, the leaders enjoyed a concert and then a Friday night dinner, in which couples were split up and not seated with their spouses. That's how Melania Trump ended up next to Putin, with President Trump seated down the way, closer to German Chancellor Angela Merkel and Chinese President Xi Jinping. The First Lady, who grew up in Slovenia, then a part of Yugoslavia, knows several languages including German, which the Russian president also speaks. The dinner took place after German Chancellor Angela Merkel treated her G20 guests to Ludwig van Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, hoping to spread her vision with a hymn to humanity, peace, and international understanding. Questions had been raised about how realistic a vision that is with Putin, Turkish leader Recep Tayyip Erdogan and Trump all on hand. The last portion of the symphony is the EU's official anthem. There were concerns before the performance that Trump might dip out of the show, performed at Hamburg's Elbphilharmonie, given the American president's feeling towards symphonies. Trump wrote in his 2004 book How to Get Rich that he knows little about classical music, preferring instead the likes of Frank Sinatra, the Rolling Stones and Aerosmith. According to CNN, Mrs. Merkel chose the 1824 Symphony, a substantial part of German culture, herself. Its final Ode to Joy movement, featuring a choir singing the rousing words of poet Friedrich Schiller, has long been seen as a call for unity and justice. Two of the lines in particular, "What convention strictly divides / all people become brothers," are famous for urging togetherness. Beethoven was fascinated by the revolutionary struggle against the old order in Europe and was once a great admirer of Napoleon Bonaparte. Head of music at Nottingham University Nicholas Baragwanath said the piece was written at a time of repression and counter-revolution. He added, "The French Revolution, this great experiment, had failed and it was a police state, effectively. For that reason the piece has long been seen as a cry for freedom." In the original version of the poem, however, it contained the line "Beggars become brothers of lords" in place of "All people become brothers." Either way, the Grand Symphony, first performed when Beethoven was completely deaf, has long been used during political events. Perhaps most famously, a performance was conducted by Leonard Bernstein on Christmas Day 1989, 6 weeks after the fall of the Berlin Wall. It has also been used by communists, leftist groups in Peru, the Tiananmen Square protesters and even the Nazis. The European Union adopted the final movement of the symphony as its anthem in the 1970s because it encapsulates the principles of freedom, peace, and solidarity. But John Dethridge, Emeritus Professor of Music at King's College London, believes the piece is well chosen for an audience including President Trump. "Donald Trump is behaving like a monarch," he said. "It's like going backwards to monarchical times when leaders had absolutely no conscience, so in a way it is a very suitable piece for him."